Hello everyone, this is My Two Cents and welcome back to my channel. It has been about a month since I did a live stream, and as I said previously, I've been trying to keep the live stream. As much as I love doing weekly live streams, I don't like having one all the time if I don't have something really specific I want to talk about that I feel can get us, we can have a great discussion with. That being said, every now and then, even if I don't have something in particular I want to talk about, I do just enjoy hanging out, shooting the shit, and talking, of course, with my co-hosts, Night Shift and Darkon. Darkon can't make it this evening, although Night Shift is here. And we're going to have a probably shorter stream, but just one where we talk about what's been going on lately. Anything y'all want to talk about, please feel free to put in the comments section. And this was definitely a time we will get to pretty much every comment that comes through. And yeah, we'll generally hang out and have a good time. So I will quickly say that in the month I've been off, I thankfully had a couple of weeks off where I visited the beaches of North Carolina. Very fun time during the summer. I'm back home now, but that was a good time. Hope everyone else has been enjoying their summer. Night Shift, you done anything crazy this summer?
Not really. I did go on a very early on this summer, towards the end of May and the early June. I did go on this really awesome trip to California, actually through Utah and California, but I literally went to Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, and just I visited a whole ton of states that I wasn't planning on visiting, and that was just a great time.
Well, I would say there's never a good reason to visit the Communist Republic, but so long as you stayed out of the big cities and stuck to the highways, there definitely is some great mountains and oceans and other cool things to see in California.
Sadly and unfortunately, I must say that I was trying to find I was trying to do a ghost hunt for y'all, and I was trying to find this haunted mining area that I've seen on YouTube before. And unfortunately, I did have to stay in a Northern California town that was absolutely steeped in Pride Month paraphernalia. And it was just, my God, there were rainbows everywhere. I thought they were going to shove a rainbow down my throat. But I only stayed one day there, and I was back on the road, and I was back in Nevada. I was back in Nevada before you could even blink, and that was very refreshing.
Gotcha. I will say quickly, I had a similar experience in early June. I had to go to Chicago for my day job, and the city of Chicago was basically, it looked like Pride Month threw up on it. So yeah, I definitely experienced that as well. But Nevada, Utah, all beautiful areas. I've been out there before. Love the mountains, love the hike. It's all great stuff. One last thing on the issue of California. I take it, Night Shift, you're familiar with the old Beach Boys hit, "I wish they all could be California girls."
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll just reverse that now. I wish they could all be not California girls, since California girls tend to be some of the most liberal in the nation.
And they tend to have a few extra bits down below, which I won't go into here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on that note, Jonathan O has JC Armitage said sup, but Jonathan O has our first question. Is everybody insane? Jonathan, I have to say it's a pretty good bet at this point. Most people are.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, let's cover just a couple of the main political news stories that have taken place since we last had a live stream. We're late to the party on this one, but I'm sure everyone knows by now, they actually tried to kill Donald John Trump. You knew it was going to happen eventually, but they actually went ahead and did it. Beyond that, what? Go ahead.
I was just like, they actually tried it. I just wow.
Mm-hmm. Now, as much as everyone knows, I'm an ANCAP, not particularly a fan of Trump in many ways, but he certainly didn't deserve to get assassinated. And the fact that they missed, I think, is going to come back to haunt them. Now, that being said, what's interesting is, like a month, the whole timeline of the Trump assassination is kind of weird in that about a month prior to the assassination, Donald Trump debates Joe Biden and absolutely wipes the floor with him. Not because he has better arguments per se, but because everyone sees for the first time Biden is basically a senile old man. They were pumping him up with drugs prior to this, and it was able to keep him together enough to fool enough people. But on that particular debate stage, everyone saw for the first time, okay, Joe Biden has Alzheimer's and something, but he clearly doesn't have it together. And he sinks in the polls. Everyone's like, oh no, all the crazy liberals are like, oh no, Donald Trump is actually going to be president again. So they try to kill Donald Trump. When they fail to do so, a week later, Joe Biden finally drops out of the presidential race, despite adamant claims that he was not going to drop out. And now we have Kamala Harris, the not so popular vice president, becoming the first Indian American / Black American woman to run for the presidency, despite never having received a single vote in a Democratic primary. Now, again, I'm not pro-democracy. I'm definitely not pro-Democrats, much less pro-Republicans. But I do find it funny that the party that claims to be about saving democracy, because Donald Trump is literally a threat to democracy, now is running a candidate who has not been democratically placed on the ticket in any sense of the word.
Really? Hey, I just think this is funny that all of the thin blue line people are voting for a convict, and all of the ACAB people on the left are voting for a cop. So I mean, is this the election of irony? I do think so, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Oh yeah.
What's even worse about the ACAB people that support Kamala Harris? So Kamala Harris's political career is basically, she slept with the mayor of San Francisco and thereby became the district attorney in San Francisco, where she put a lot of people, most of them ethnic minorities, behind bars for marijuana charges, mostly because she wanted a good conviction record and she knew that was easy prey. Meanwhile, she let actual murderers go free. She then became the attorney general in California, running against another Democrat. Well, I've heard this all played out. I might be getting this backwards. I know she actually won one election, I think, against a Republican by very, very narrow margin, and that might have been the attorney generalship in California. Of course, she continued her record of putting people of ethnic minorities behind bars for stupid things, as well, letting real criminals go. She then is elected to the Senate against another Democrat. So, hard, very not a difficult thing to do in a place like California, where she then basically reverses her position and says marijuana shouldn't be illegal. We should defund the police. I support Black Lives Matter rioters that are currently burning down the United States in 2019, 2020. And now she's running her presidential campaign on the basis that she's a tough prosecutor and is going to be tough on crime. So as we can see, she's flipped her political positions have changed rather rapidly throughout her career. The only consistent thing being that she continues to hold higher office despite being radically unpopular with the people she served. Kamala Harris was not democratically elected in any sense of the word, but she knows who to sleep with, and she knows who and who to politically attach herself with, and that has allowed her to. I'll steal the line from Ben Shapiro, but I first heard him say it, but she's basically failed upwards her entire career.
Oh, yeah.
JC Armitage says, was Kamala Harris actually a cop, or was she just a prosecutor? No, she was never a law enforcement officer, to my knowledge, but she was a prosecutor, a district attorney in San Francisco. And then she was the attorney general in San Francisco, which is basically considered the highest ranking law enforcement officer in a state or federal government, although he's more of a lawyer than a cop.
Going back to the whole Trump assassination attempt, I just want to put this out there because I have heard it's very suspicious. And is anyone thinking inside job or psyop on that one? Like, is anyone? I was looking at kind of everything that was going on, and I myself was thinking, is this a possible psyop? Is this something that's going on that's a possible psyop? I just wanted to gauge everyone else's response on that. Like, I mean, like, do you think that? Do you think there's any possibility of that? Does anybody else think there's any possibility of that, or what?
All right. Well, first, I'll just be clear. I'm merely speculating here because obviously I'm not in a position to know anything for sure. What I can say is that I have built a career in the private security field. I'm by no means a Secret Service agent, although I actually have met a few in the course of my work. I'm not going to say more about that because I can't, but I know a thing or two about how you secure events like a presidential rally like that. You cannot convince me that the shooter that shot at Donald Trump happened to get on that rooftop and take several shots at him solely by the result of a lot of very experienced very professional. I mean, the U.S. Secret Service is basically considered the most elite law enforcement agency in the United States. It's the hardest agency to get hired by. They, for the longest time, have prided themselves on being so elite because they literally protect the president of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, all these high-ranking individuals. The greatest experts in the world when it comes to personal protection details are brought together to train and operate the U.S. Secret Service. You cannot convince me that it was solely oversight or mistakes that allowed that to happen. There is no way, when you have experienced Secret Service agents who have spent their careers protecting high-profile figures, who've been trained by the best in the business, who literally spend their entire career getting lectured and relearning and training about all the possible ways someone could try to assassinate a profile figure and how you protect them from it. You can convince me that they just messed up, that it was just an accident that guy up there. There is no way that happened. It absolutely, in my opinion, had to have been an inside job, in that the Secret Service at least let it happen. Now, I'll let you chime in, Night Shift, in a second. I'll just finish basically what my theory is. I am willing to say the shooter fellow, this Crooks individual, I'm willing to say he may well just have been some nut on the internet. But here's what I think probably happened. He was on the internet talking with fellow anti-Trump activists, or people he believed at least were anti-Trump activists, who probably were in fact undercover FBI, CIA, deep state operatives, who then reached out to him, basically gave him the resources and training, the instructions on how to do this, and then ensured that all the security measures at that rally would be so lax that he'd be able to get up there without anyone stopping him until such time as he actually took the shot. Their plan was, and I'm sure everyone's seen the videos and the analysis by now, Donald Trump was saved by an act of God. Like, literally, if he had not turned to look at that chart he put up on the screen, the bullet would have hit him square between the eyes. But because he turned his head, it missed by like a couple millimeters. But the plan was, I think, he'd get his shot off, Trump would die, the Secret Service would then shoot back, killing Crooks, dead men tell no tales. And then if any of this, and basically they could just throw Crooks under the bus as being some nut who acted independently, and the Secret Service just made a ton of mistakes. And it would go down in history just like the JFK assassination. No one would ever really buy it, but you wouldn't be able to prove it otherwise. At least that is my theory. Night Shift, I'll let you chime in on what you think was going on.
Well, no, that's all really good. That's a really good theory right there. What I was going to say is there were even people on the sidelines, apparently, that saw Crooks get up on the roof, and they saw him up there, and they were literally trying to tell the police, like, there's someone on that roof. They've got a rifle, and the cops weren't responding. The police and the Secret Service and everyone there that was supposed to be defending Trump, they were not responding to this, and there were people even yelling, "He's got a gun."
Exactly, and I've seen those interviews. Like, there's footage of people with their cell phones on the ground. They're standing there pointing like, "Officers, hey, there's a guy up there. He's got a gun." And this is like 4 minutes before the guy actually takes his shot. So yeah.
And then the cops would not respond. Secret Service would not respond. And only right after the guy shoots, only right after the guy apparently shoots at Trump, then we hear gunshots going off in response to the shooter. And it's like only right after that happens, not before, not like in the 4 or 5 minutes before that. That is very fishy. And it does point to either an inside job or, dare I say, a psyop. So, I mean, make of that what you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think just like the JFK assassination, I don't think anyone, like, whatever the government's official explanation for this, the damage is done. No one believes, well, I shouldn't say no one, but anyone with a pair of eyes and half competence can see there's no way this is just one guy happened to decide to do this on the very day that the Secret Service, the most elite law enforcement agency in the United States, crapped its pants and it had no idea what was going on. There was absolutely something else going on. And of course, I think it's fishy that after he fails to kill Donald Trump, it's only then that Joe Biden drops out basically saying, "I'm doing it for the good of the country." Even though well before that, it had already come out that he was totally senile and incapable of running in the United States. I mean, not that he was capable of running it well. He still had his wits about him, but I guess I at least I had no sympathy for Joe Biden, the politician. I at least have some sympathy for Joe Biden, the senile old man, if anybody watched the debate, and I certainly did, that's elder abuse. I mean, can you imagine sending your own grandfather up there and to make a fool of himself, knowing that about his condition? I don't know how Joe Biden's family lived with themselves, but then again, they have been making money off him their entire lives.
Well, no, here's what I was ultimately worried about. This is what I was ultimately worried about with there only being a few months left before the election. I was worried that they were going to announce, and this was even all over Twitter. People were asking, like, where's Joe Biden? I mean, and a lot of people were speculating that Joe Biden was actually dead. And I was just thinking, oh my God, that's just what we need, is for Joe Biden to actually die before the election and to leave Kamala Harris in charge of the country for those last few months. Oh God, that would be god awful, honestly.
Well, I think it's safe to say she effectively is the president at this point, because we've all, I mean, I don't think he's been publicly seen now since he made one announcement Wednesday night of last week, basically saying, I'm stepping down because, well, I'm not going to say why, but you all know. and then no one has seen him since. And of course, Kamala Harris has started her presidential campaign. Basically, they're just I will say the funniest thing about Harris's campaign is, to my knowledge, she's not actually been in any press conferences. She's not actually talked at all about what her policies are going to be, or like what she's running to be president on. She has, however, come forward with a couple of major groups that are supporting her, which included white guys for Kamala, hotties for Kamala, and black women for Kamala. And I think the white men for Kamala thing was like some infomercial they did where a bunch of white actors and whatnot, liberal Hollywood actors, including Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and others like that, coming forward talking about how much they love Kamala Harris. And then the hotties thing was what's her name? The female Megan Thee Stallion. Megan Thee Stallion. She did a performance at like a Harris thing, and then of course black women for Harris. That's exactly what it sounds like. But like, yeah, it says it all. White men for Kamala, hotties for Kamala, and black women for Kamala. It's all yet again, and it's more cultural Marxism. Basically, just look at how many ethnic groups support me.
Oh God, I just got a thought. How long do you think it will be before we get a WAP remake for Kamala Harris?
Probably not long. You know what? I'm actually going to scroll on Twitter and see if I can find anything of that nature.
Oh my God, yeah, totally.
But probably.
Oh no!
I do like what JC Armitage says here. There's a reason we call the White House a glorified retirement home, a retirement home that runs a giant Ponzi scheme. That statement was JC. That statement was always true, but considering that the president is currently a senile old man, it's especially true today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now, I will throw this out there. Some people ask me, they're like, my 2 cents, you're an ANCAP. How come you aren't supporting the Libertarian Party candidate? Well, I do have some thoughts on that too. And what I'm going to say is, I am pretty much convinced at this point the Libertarian Party has been infiltrated by establishment Republicans and Democrats they've made it the job of the Libertarian Party to make libertarians look as stupid as possible. Because for whatever reason, the candidates the Libertarian Party picks are always the dumbest, like most unelectable people you could possibly imagine. Plus, the people they parade around at the Libertarian Party conventions are not serious economists like Robert Murphy. Why was my mind slipping on who else I wanted to talk here? But the students of people like Hayek, von Mises, like those kind of caliber people you could bring at the Libertarian Party conference, and instead they parade around the pot smoking, half bearded college student who says I'm libertarian because I love weed. Yeah, like no.
Yeah.
The Libertarian Party is not meant to spread libertarian ideals. It's meant to make libertarians look silly. So I want nothing to do with them.
Well, why can't the Libertarian Party here in America get someone like Javier Milei? I mean, goddamn.
Absolutely.
It would be miraculous if we could get somebody like Javier Milei up here. That'd be, oh God, it'd be incredible. Absolutely.
But yeah, so I'm basically black pilled on government, as I believe everyone should be at this point. pretty much, as JC Armitage says here, because political means are incapable of achieving libertarian ends. Pretty simple reason. And that's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I've written about this before. I don't really make video content anymore beyond live streams, but if you look some back at my old videos, I've talked about this. Government is a group of people. When you put a group of people in a situation where they have special powers no one else has, inevitably they use those powers to better their own lives, which means accumulating more resources and special privileges for themselves. Thus, it doesn't matter which party you elect. Ultimately, over time, the government spends more money and grows in the size and scope of its authority. That's inevitable. Picking between Republicans and Democrats is basically like choosing, do you want to be hanged or do you want to be killed by firing squad? I mean, given the choice, you probably do prefer one or the other, but in the end, you end up dead either way. So that being said, a lot of libertarians say, you should, if you're a libertarian, you need to vote for the lesser of two evils. If you're a libertarian, you should vote for a libertarian candidate, or if you're a libertarian, just don't vote. I mean, where I'm at, if you're a libertarian, ever do your conscience. If you feel you need to vote for Donald Trump or someone else because they're the lesser of two evils, go for it. If you feel you just shouldn't vote, go for it. If you want to vote for Chase Oliver or whoever else, go for it. Just don't pretend you're actually making a difference, because that's what, so long as you believe that by voting you can actually change the system, you are a slave to the system.
Exactly.
But heck, if you want to cast your vote, by all means, go ahead. Honestly, where I'm sitting, I really hope Donald Trump wins. Not because I think he's going to make the country better. He certainly won't. Inflation, for all his tough talk, inflation is going up just as badly because of his administration as it is Joe Biden's administration. Let's not forget Donald Trump was responsible for the Fauci regime, the first COVID lockdowns, all that nonsense. Donald Trump does not deserve praise, nor does he deserve to be considered the savior of the world, as the MAGA crowd would have you be. But if nothing else, I think he deserves to win at this point. They tried to throw him in. They tried to prosecute. They tried to impeach him. That failed. They tried to throw him in prison. That failed. Heck, now they tried to kill him, and that failed. I mean, if nothing else, if there was ever a man who deserved to win the presidency for if no other reason than he survived literally every attempt the enemy put against him, I'd say Donald Trump probably deserved the presidency for no other reason than that.
Mm-hmm.
And JC Armitage says, don't forget the bump stock ban. Very true.
Yeah.
Now, on that point, I'm sure everyone probably heard about this. This is something worth mentioning. Kyle Rittenhouse, the famed Wisconsin, where was it in Wisconsin? It was Wisconsin, right, where that occurred? Kenosha, Wisconsin. So. Yes. Okay. So Kyle Rittenhouse, as a 17-year-old boy, was out protecting the streets in Kenosha, Wisconsin during the BLM riots. He was assaulted by a bunch of crazy liberals and forced to use his AR-15 rifle to defend himself. They tried to throw him in jail. Ultimately, he was acquitted, thankfully, because what he did was clearly self-defense. But Kyle Rittenhouse, earlier this week, came out and announced Donald Trump had, in fact, infringed upon Second Amendment rights, bump stock ban, among other things. Kyle Rittenhouse stated that he was going to write in Ron Paul for president because he would not vote for Donald Trump on the basis that he was not fully Second Amendment. And again, like I said, that kind of where I'm coming from is I think we already know Donald Trump isn't fully Second Amendment. That being said, writing in a third-party candidate isn't actually going to stop Donald Trump or Kamala Harris from getting elected. The system is rigged in that regard, so I don't think that's necessarily a sound political strategy. But heck, I mean, at least Kyle was starting a conversation about the fact that Trump isn't fully Second Amendment, so good on him for that. However, within 12 hours, Kyle Rittenhouse then issued a retraction stating he'd been contacted by members of the Trump campaign and basically re-educated about where Donald Trump really stands on the Second Amendment issue. And now he's no longer writing in Ron Paul. He is, again, going to be voting for Donald Trump. So that was a quick turnaround. It does go to show you, though, how much power politically placed figures really have. And further evidence that the system really is rigged. So you either support Donald Trump, you either support the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, but the system as it currently exists will never allow a third-party candidate to win. Just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry about that, Kyle, but heck, I know you're just a kid, you're just a young man, and the Trump campaign's got a lot of power. So whatever, he did what he needed to do.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like there's a good chance that Trump is becoming the holy God emperor again. So,
yes, absolutely. You know what? I got to see for just a minute here. I'm going to look up. There's a pretty hilarious meme going around about Donald Trump. Let me see if I can find it. All right, got it here. Hang on, just gonna zoom in, get an image of it, and I'll share my screen. All right, so this is the picture that's been floating around Twitter and everywhere else. Basically, Donald Trump has become the new god of the Republican Party, or at least the MAGA Republican Party.
It's not a cult, though.
Yeah, it's not a cult. Totally not a cult, but we do make images like this.
Oh my gosh.
JC Armitage says, do you think Rittenhouse was intimidated into that retraction, or is he a genuine cuck? I mean, I'd like to think he was intimidated, or maybe he's a genuine cuck. Who knows? Or you know, heck, maybe he was. There are basically three things that could have happened. Donald Trump the Trump campaign offered him money and position to retract. They basically convinced him that Donald Trump is going to be more Second Amendment this time around than he was last time, which I don't know how you would possibly convince someone of that, considering you have his record, but maybe, or he was threatened. And I'd like to think it was the first or the last, not the fact that he was genuinely convinced, but.
No, yeah, me too.
Coffee House Dialogue says, get that blasphemy out of my face. Indeed.
Nice.
Indeed. Now, of course, if we want to talk about blasphemy, I'm sure everybody, if anybody in the comments section has been watching the Olympics, please place some comments. Let me know how it's going. I don't really care for the Olympics. Every now and then I'll pull up some clips on YouTube to see some gymnastics or beach volleyball for obvious reasons. But I don't really care about the Olympics. However, the Olympics did make news in due to the whole Last Supper trans people thing. So let me get that image pulled up here. Hang on.
Oh. That whole ceremony, that whole first ceremony that they did was just cursed.
So in the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, you get a bunch of trans and drag queen people basically recreating the Last Supper. It was disgusting enough as it was, but they had to go and make it sacrilegious. Honestly, I don't care what a bunch of idiots do, but I don't understand. But no one, I mean, who honestly liked this? Nobody, save for like a few radical left-wing people who are super pro LGBT garbage. So they basically just knew they were going to offend everybody, but wanted to showcase how left-wing Europe in particular and the French government has become.
Well, and God, it did sound like they were trying to offend everyone, but even on that front, I mean, even doing that, it kind of failed in a way. It's like they were trying to be offensive, they were trying to be shocking, but it really was just like everyone kind of just looking at them with a look of disappointment and basically being like, "Really, guys? Really? No, this isn't it." Like. No, I get the reaction too. It's just like, no, that's that. You know, if you're trying to be shocking, that's not the way to do it.
Not sure if it's better or worse. Well, let's face it, both sides of the political spectrum are trying to outdo each other for outrage.
Oh yeah.
Although JC Armitage does bring up the Turkish assassin and the pistol competition. I didn't see that one either, but of course I've seen all the pictures floating around X. The middle-aged man who basically. During the pistol competition, everyone's got all these snazzy gadgets and sights and whatnot, and he just basically walks up with a nondescript iron sight pistol, holds it in the air, shoots, and then walks away with a silver medal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that guy that guy was pretty good. Coffee House Dialogue says, on the bright side, the evangelical community did not let Paris stop it from enjoying the Elevation worship concert here in Indianapolis last night. I know because I backpacked that. I bar-backed. Bar-backed?
That night.
All right, that night? Okay. I'm not familiar with the term bar-back, but maybe I'm just an idiot. But good for you. Hope you enjoyed that concert.
Yeah.
I will quickly say the other image that came out of the Olympics. I showed this one in Night Shift beforehand, but I retweeted it on Twitter here. So here we have a picture of the Spain's women's beach volleyball team versus the Egyptian beach volleyball team. As you can see, there are some differences in their outfits based on the cultural context of both countries. I don't know about you, but I'm rooting for Spain.
Yeah, same here. Wow.
Looking good, ladies. And of course, volleyball. I don't know, but it's at least a semi-interesting sport.
Those Egyptian girls have got to be dying in that heat, though, just from having to wear all that. Oh, wow. I'm
Absolutely. Although I suppose it's preferable to being punished under Islamic law.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Coffee House Dialogue says, bar back is basically a guy that keeps the bar stocked on the product the bartenders use. Okay, awesome. Good for you.
Nice.
Well, on that note, we're at the half an hour mark, and that's usually what it to as far as these just kind of hangout streams. But I will put it out there. Anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss before we sign off the stream?
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan O says Julian Assange was released from jail a month ago. Excellent news.
No, that was excellent news. I even did that video for it. It was kind of a short video, but it was his release with what I thought was appropriate music to play for the whole thing, and that was really nice. That's just great that he's free.
Absolutely, journalism is not a crime, and if they try to lock you up for telling the truth, well, it proves you're probably onto something.
Oh yeah.
Somebody on the internet says Venezuela elections. Okay, I'll admit I have seen a couple of headlines about this. This is not something I've researched in detail, but is it correct Maduro was actually voted out in Venezuela? Let me do a quick.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so the Washington Post here. I'm going to pull up this article because I just got it now. Hang on. All right, so Maduro lost election. This is the Washington Post. Maduro lost election. Tallies collected by Venezuela's opposition show. And Caracas, Venezuela. Venezuela's opposition candidate likely received more than twice as many votes as President Nicolas Maduro in the country's election last week, according to a Washington Post review of more than 23,000 precinct-level tally sheets collected by the opposition, a sample that represents nearly 80% of voting machines nationwide. That conclusion, which echoes the results of independent exit polling and similar independent analysis, offers further evidence against the authoritarian socialist claim that he defeated Gonzalez in the July 28th vote. Okay, you know what? That is great news. It shows that Venezuelans have come to see that socialism does not work. Now, here's the question. Will Maduro actually concede, or will he end up nonetheless remaining in charge of Venezuela? If the latter, it will prove to you the other thing about socialism, that socialism is not, in fact, a democratic institution, as Bernie Bros would have you believe. Socialism is and always will be a totalitarian ideology. And as evidenced by the fact that if Maduro doesn't step down, as I suspect he will not, his elections are merely a farce.
Mm-hmm. No, I highly doubt he's going to step down. Oh, God. I mean, they almost had a revolution there once. They almost actually had a revolution there once. I'm thinking that's the only way they're ever going to get Maduro to stand down is.
But you see, the problem is the other thing that Maduro and his predecessor Hugo Chavez got right is gun control. The people don't have weapons, and therefore a revolution is unlikely.
Yes, unfortunately.
There's a reason if you want to be free, never give up your guns.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Merchant says there was also an irony from the 2020 election because the ACAB leftists supported Joe Biden despite his past actions. If Trump won, MAGAs couldn't claim election interference and swept under the rug.
Wait, what was Joe Biden doing? Like, what was the...
Basically, he says people who are against police voted for Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden supported the tough on crime bill back in the 1990s.
Oh, that's true. That's true, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if Trump won, the Make America Great Again crowd couldn't claim election interference, which the other side likely would do if he won.
Mm-hmm.
And Coffee Host Dialogue says, might want to keep tabs on the aristocratic utensil. He keeps bashing the idea of being principled as being a weakness.
Oh, really?
I believe you're Coffee Host. Are you referring to Maduro on that? All right. Well, on that note, this has been a fun, shorter stream, but plenty to talk about. Hope everyone's doing well. Night Shift, thank you for joining, as always.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love this. This was awesome.
Absolutely. And as I hope by next time we'll have something a little more concrete for a more detailed topic-specific stream. But it is always fun just to have these hangout ones every now and then. As always, please feel free to leave comments. If you would have something you want us to talk about further on, either send me an email. My email is located on my YouTube page, or follow me on Twitter/X. My handle is, I can never remember my handle because it's very specific, but @_my2_sense_. And I had to put all the underscores in there because someone already had the handle my 2 cents when I first signed up for Twitter. But that's where I put most of my stuff nowadays. It has become a much more fun platform since Elon took over.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. And as always, that is my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth.